Get ready for an amazing transformation. In today's video, I'll be taking a bland and boring room in my home and giving it a complete makeover using just a couple cans of paint, a few thrift store finds, and some creative decorating. I have lots of budget-friendly tips and tricks to share. One idea may change the way you decorate forever. I'm so excited for today's video. So let's get started.
Every good room transformation needs to start with the before photos. So here's what the bookcases in my library looked like just a couple weeks ago. Although they are constructed of solid maple wood, I always found the medium wood tone to be rather bland. And so I asked you guys if I should paint them dark navy or off-white, and the vast majority of you voted for the dark navy. Here's another view of the cabinets once I removed all the books, decor, and wood shelves. Okay, and now for the paint color reveal. Will it be white or will it be navy? Even if you were hoping for the white, you have to admit this is an amazing transformation. At this point, I was so excited to redecorate the shelves that I could barely let the paint dry.
I went thrift shopping for inspiration and for some raw materials. And as it turns out, I found a few things that I can use as is that I think will fit in perfectly with the library aesthetic just as they are. So I wanted to share those items with you first. I picked up a couple small books. I don't really need any more books in my library, but I just can't resist small books because they are so perfect for staging in different vignettes. You can't have a vintage looking library without a few candles. And so I picked up this wood candlestick for $1. And look at this little candle cup. Isn't that adorable? And that was only 50 cents. And yeah, it's brass. And I got these unopened ivory candles for 25 cents. And then I got this little brass candle sconce for $1.14. So I think those are all some really great finds, very budget friendly. And I picked up this little statue. Not really sure what it's for. Kind of looks like a miniature bird bath. You might not think that this would be typical library decor, but actually statues and busts are commonly found in the dark academia aesthetic. I'm probably going to paint it because it has this kind of greenish, goldish highlighting on it that I don't care for. If you saw my hallway transformation video, then you know I love glass cloches, but they are getting harder to find. Apparently, I'm not the only one that loves them. But I did pick up some interesting items that I thought could be used like a glass cloche. I got this, which I'm not really sure what it originally was, but I think it's going to look adorable with something inside, and it was just a couple dollars. And then I got this. I think this was $1, and I'm probably going to remove this hanging votive holder in the middle so that I can just put it right over some little small object. Like a clock. Won't that look cute? One of the main things that I was looking for when I went out was vintage art. But like glass cloches, that is something that is getting harder and harder to find. But I did come across this oval frame with the vintage floral. And although I do love the floral, I may open up the back and put a different print in there because I mostly love the oval frame. And I just don't know if these colors are going to work in my library or not. I'm going to try it first. And then if I don't like it, then I'll probably print out a different vintage image. But I won't destroy this one. I'll keep it in there so that I can always change it back at a later date. And then now the piece de resistance. Look at these drawers. I am guessing that these probably came off of a vintage dresser. This one has some water damage on the top, and this one has a crack, but I don't care. I think that these are amazing, and I'm not sure how I'm going to use them, but you know that I will find a spot for them somewhere in my library. And these, the orange sticker, is the highest priced item at this particular thrift store, and that means these were $6. So for $12, look at this, $12, I got these amazing drawers. Oh, and I did get one more thing, but it's not going in my library. I got this adorable blue and white vase. Look at that with the windmill on that side and then flowers on that side. Isn't that so cute? This will fit perfectly in my dining room, and this only cost $1. And it's stamped with a number on the bottom. So I think it might be of some value. I'll look it up and let you know.
While I was thrift shopping, I was hoping I would come across a desk that I could add to the library area, and I found this vintage roll-top desk at the Habitat Restore and was able to purchase it for just $100. Once I had the desk arranged in the room, I realized that I was only going to have room for one additional chair across from the sofa. So I used a little decorating trick that I'm going to share with you now to figure out which chair I wanted to use in this room. Rather than move a bunch of furniture around to see what would fit and look good in the space, I took a picture of the room and then I opened the Canva app on my iPad. I uploaded the photo of the room, and then I took photos of the chairs from around my house that I wanted to try out in the space. I used the background remover on the pictures of the chairs so that I could see it better while I sized it and moved it around in the picture of the space. I tried out a red leather chair from my front living room and a blue velvet chair from my dining room. I even tried out a brown leather chair that I was considering buying from an online store. I'm so glad I tried it out in Canva first because I like the red leather against the blue bookcases much more than the brown. I was also thinking about trading out the handles on the drawers at the base of the bookcases, and by trying them out in Canva, I could see almost exactly how they would look. I haven't ordered any yet, so let me know which ones you like the best. Once I had the red chair, a side table, and lamp all from my front living room situated into the library area, it became evident that I was going to need a smaller coffee table. Once again, I tried out a couple different options in Canva and settled on this recent thrift store purchase that I found for $30 at Goodwill. I plan on stripping and restaining it, but it'll have to wait until the weather's warmer and I can work in the garage. Once I had the furniture situated, I was ready to start unpacking my books and getting them back on the shelves. You can arrange your books any way you like. I know some people like to arrange them by color. but I've always arranged mine by genre so that when I'm looking for a specific book, I can easily find it. So I mostly returned the books exactly the way they had been before, with all the poetry books on one shelf, all the biographies on one shelf, all the Shakespeare on one shelf, and so forth. Once all the books were in place, my next step was to consider which of my previous decor items fit in with the dark academia aesthetic that I wanted to achieve and which items I needed to replace. I kept the Raven figurine, which I, of course, put next to the complete tales of Edgar Allan Poe. I also returned a school-themed vignette to one of the cubbies. The inspiration for this vignette was a vintage photo of my grandmother as a teacher and her classroom of students. Over the years, I have picked up a few vintage textbooks, tins, and other school-related items to add to this vignette, and I use a small child's chair to add interest by creating some height so everything is not on the same level. I am actually lucky enough to have a couple real butterfly displays that I purchased on a recent vacation. They're from a butterfly sanctuary, and the butterflies are only collected after they die naturally. I purchased a metal and glass frame at Hobby Lobby on clearance. I tore off the edges of a thrift store butterfly drawing to give it a vintage look and so that it would fit inside this frame. One of the chain clasps is missing, so there's no way to hang it on the wall, but it is perfect for leaning inside a bookcase. After adding in some of my old decor to the shelves, I was now ready to start adding in some of my new thrift store finds. I painted the little statue with Waverly's mineral-colored chalk paint, and when the paint was dry, I lightly distressed it with some sandpaper, and then I applied a coat of white wax, carefully rubbing away the excess wax with a cloth. Although this statue would be the perfect container for a small, droopy plant, I wanted to do something a little less expected, so I just piled a couple small books on top. For the glass and metal cloche, I found a round slice of scrap wood to use as a base, and after I rummaged around my house, I found a small piece of coral that was the perfect size to display on the wood round. I love how these three separate items of junk, when used together, look like something really special and expensive. When I was looking at the cloche that looks like a little metal cage, the inner votive holder popped right out. So I decided to add a few small faux plants and use it as hanging decor in my library. I love when I get multiple DIY projects from one thrift store purchase. And how cute does that look hanging from a knob on my card catalog cabinet? I found a wood block meant for a candle to use as a base for the metal cage cloche, and I decided to use it to display a collection of tiny owls. I haven't decided if I like this or not, but one thing's for sure, no one else will have anything like it. Once the shelves were decorated, I moved my attention to the top of the bookcases. Although I love my collection of vintage thermoses and red plaid accessories, I was ready for a change, and I wanted to create a more academic aesthetic even in these areas. I played around with the suitcases and added my vintage bird cage and a random spindle on the upper left side. On the upper right side, I again removed the red plaid accessories and played around with the arrangement of 3 different suitcases, including one that I had turned into a clock in a previous video. Then I just added a droopy fake plant to a brass bowl to add some texture and a pop of color. Once I was happy with the bookcases, I moved on to decorating my new roll-top desk. First, I added my vintage typewriter that had previously been on the bookshelves, and then I just rounded up a few vintage-looking desk accessories that I found around the house. Although I loved the Jane Austen quote that I had previously applied to the wall, I was ready for a change. So I used a razor blade-like scraper to remove the vinyl lettering, and the vinyl pulled off some of the wall paint, so I needed to touch up the paint before creating a new wall arrangement. First, I hung a piece of salvage taken from an old church organ. Then I hung this vintage framed presidential print that I picked up at an antique store for $38. Because I grew up in Illinois, Abraham Lincoln has always been one of my heroes. I have two really unique wood sconces that had once hung in my dining room but had recently just been in storage in my basement that I wanted to see if I could use somewhere in the library. I decided that the best spot was on the two ends of the bookcases. And now just a few finishing touches. I moved a vintage clock from my front living room to the desk and added a few small pieces of vintage art to the center of each of the big bookcases. And now for the final reveal. But first, one more look at the before photos. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss my kitchen makeover video coming soon.